We've got free speech here in Canada. You can say whatever you want about the oil sands, about pipelines, but there are some people who aren't allowed to because they voluntarily give up some freedom of expression in exchange for receiving special privileges in society. A judge is an obvious example. Judges have to be politically neutral and nonpartisan, and they have to appear that way too. Otherwise, how could anyone expect a fair trial? Here's an excerpt from the Code of Conduct that the Canadian Judicial Council uses. They're the disciplinary body for Canada's judges. Just an example of their rules that apply to politics. There are many other restrictions on judges too, and if you don't like them, then don't ask to be a judge. Here, let me quote. Judges should refrain from A, membership in political parties and political fundraising. B, attendance at political gatherings and political fundraising events. C, contributing to political parties or campaigns. D, taking part publicly in controversial political discussions, except in respect of matters directly affecting the operation of the courts, the independence of the judiciary, or fundamental aspects of the administration of justice. E, signing petitions to influence a political decision. I'm not going to read anymore. It's a whole booklet, let me put it that way. The Judicial Council actually says that even if a judge's family members engage in politics, that judge might have to remove themselves from a case. You've got to be completely nonpartisan. Hey, doesn't a judge have the right to free speech just like the rest of us do? Well, as a citizen he does, but a judge is given such broad power over society, a power that must be used neutrally and must be seen to be neutral, that a judge must voluntarily agree to give up politics. If he wants to be political, that's fine, but he can't have it both ways. Of course, they're way tougher on conservative judges than on liberal judges. Here's a Hamilton judge who wore a Trump hat. He was suspended for 30 days. I've never seen a left-wing judge sanctioned this way, but the principle is there, okay? Just wanted to put that obvious example out there because there is another group of Canadians besides judges who have the constitutional right to be politically active, but they have voluntarily given up that right in return for special benefits from the government that the rest of us don't have. I'm talking about registered charities that are tax exempt under the Income Tax Act and who have the power to issue tax receipts to their donors. That's a pretty incredible privilege when you think about it. I mean, if you were tax-free in your business, imagine if you could say to your customers, guess what? You can now claim any money you pay to us. You can claim that against your taxes, your tax receipt. It's actually a huge subsidy to your business and to your customers. It's a subsidy from the rest of society to you. And we all agree to that. If you're doing something that is, in the Latin legal phrase, pro bono publico, which means for the public good. Something for which there is no opposite point of view, for example. So a soup kitchen, a homeless shelter, training seeing eye dogs, helping out, volunteering at a hospital. We all agree that those are for the public good. There's no other side to that argument. Being anti-soup kitchen or anti-food bank isn't a thing. These are not controversies. We all agree they're for the public good. There is a special page on the Canada Revenue Agency website explaining how and why politics are banned from charities. You can see in the top left corner, I don't know if you can see that, this was first published in 2003, when Jean Chrétien was the Liberal Prime Minister, and it's been tweaked a bit over the years, but it's pretty much the same. No politics. And I mentioned 2003, and I mentioned Jean Chrétien to point out that this is not a partisan thing. It's just the legal definition of a charity, and both Liberal and Conservative governments have implemented those rules through a nonpartisan civil service at the Canada Revenue Agency. So let me read to you a couple of sentences from this website. This is not from the Income Tax Act itself. This is a Revenue Canada explainer. It's official. It's on the website to help people understand the Income Tax Act as it applies to charities. So it's written in pretty plain English for normal humans to understand. Let me read this part. It's the difference between political purposes and charitable purposes. Okay, ready? All registered charities are required by law to have exclusively charitable purposes. Okay, well, what does that mean? Under the Act and common law, an organization established for a political purpose cannot be a charity. The courts have determined political purposes to be those that seek to further the interests of a particular political party or support a political party or candidate for public office. And the second point there, very important, retain, oppose, or change the law, policy, or decision of any level of government in Canada or a foreign country. So for example, you can't support Justin Trudeau or oppose Stephen Harper. I mean, you can fill your boots, but then you can't be a charity and get free money from the government. You can't oppose the Kinder Morgan pipeline and its approval process. Remember, that's a policy. That's a decision of a government. I mean, again, you can oppose them, but then you can't call yourself a charity and get free money. Let me read just two more sentences that really turned on the light bulb for me. This is plain English from the government, which is very rare. Let me read it. It says, a political purpose, such as seeking a ban on deer hunting, requires a charity to enter into a debate about whether such a ban is good, rather than providing or working towards an accepted public benefit. It also means that in order to assess the public benefit of a political purpose, a court would have to take sides in a political debate. That's so clear, isn't it? So some people could think that banning deer hunting is a really good idea, really noble. You could think it's really for the public good and charitable. But there is another side of the debate too. There's another point of view that is legitimate. It could be wrong, but it's legitimate, and therefore what you think is a public good, someone else doesn't. That's politics. It's not charity. Food banks, there's no other side to the story on food banks. There's no legitimate anti-food bank point of view, anti-hospital point of view, right? Justin Trudeau, Stephen Harper, Kinder Morgan pipeline expansion, those are all legitimate subjects for controversy and debate. So you don't get to be a tax-free charity if you hate a pipeline or hate a politician, because that's just lobbying or political chatter. You're not housing the homeless that we all agree on. Which brings me to Canada's environmental charities. Given what I've just shown you from the Canada Revenue Agency's long-standing rules against politics, what do you make of this? It's a tweet. Have you heard our new radio ads calling on the federal government to cancel its plans to bail out Kinder Morgan's pipeline and oil tanker project? Give them a listen and visit our website to call your MP and stop this bailout today. Stop Kinder Morgan. So that was a tweet from the Western Canada Wilderness Society. Here, listen to the 30-second ad that they're running.
Have you heard Justin Trudeau wants to waste billions of our tax dollars to bail out Kinder Morgan's pipeline and oil tankers? Public funds should pay for schools and hospitals, not bailing out a project that puts the BC coast at risk of an oil spill disaster. Because it will be you and me, not these Texas billionaires, who will be on the hook for the cleanup. We don't have much time to stop this, so call your MP today and tell them to stop the Kinder Morgan bailout.
A message from Lead Now, Sierra Club BC, Wilderness Committee, and some of us.
So that was also from the Sierra Club of BC, eh? Well, here's the CRA charities page for the Sierra Club of BC Foundation. It is a registered charity, and if you click on their official website link on the CRA, this is what you are taken to. Stop Kinder Morgan pipeline. It's a big protest. The first words you see on the website, by definition, a debate, a dispute, a political controversy with two different sides. The main thing on their website of a charity. And that tweet itself, that was from the Western Canada Wilderness Committee. Sorry, I said society a moment ago. Well, the Wilderness Committee is another registered CRA charity. This is taken from Revenue Canada's own page. And look at this one. Make sure you join us in Montreal on May 27th to stop Kinder Morgan. That's from something called Climate Reality. Do you see that up there? Well, that's a registered charity too, linked to Al Gore, the climate huckster who made almost $100 million in a business deal with the OPEC dictatorship of Qatar. And here's their charity registration with the Canada Revenue Agency. So what have we here? Well, the left might say, we see free speech. Well, sure you do. But it's illegal if you want free money from the rest of us. You've got to make a choice. You can't scam free money from the rest of taxpayers through the CRA by calling yourself a charity, but then also engage in political campaigns. That's just against the law. Now, I can understand why they all think they can get away with it. Here's David Suzuki of the David Suzuki Foundation, literally starring in an old campaign ad for the Liberal Party with the disgraced former Premier of Ontario, Dalton McGuinty. And Gerald Butts was actually working for McGuinty. He's now the principal secretary to Justin Trudeau. He led another extremely political, quote, charity called the World Wildlife Fund Canada before he ran Trudeau's campaign. In fact, weirdly, the World Wildlife Fund Canada continued to pay Butts a 6-figure salary long after he went to work for Trudeau. How's that even legal? So he was still being paid by the World Wildlife Fund when he worked for Trudeau. Maybe that's why these charities think they can get away with it now. The fox is in charge of the hen house. The guy who worked for Dalton McGuinty, the guy who worked for Trudeau, he's fine with this. That's exactly why they think they can get away with it. You might recall that a few years ago when I ran something called the Ethical Oil Institute, we brought this law breaking to the attention of the public and to the CRA itself. And dozens of illegal charity scams were investigated. And these very groups were audited. And they failed their audits. I mean, of course, I read you the law. Here's a CBC News story, totally torqued, of course. I mean, look, the CBC is where David Suzuki has worked for years. And the Suzuki Foundation was one of the groups being investigated. So, of course, the CBC was giving you pure environmentalist propaganda here. But let me quote from the facts buried within the CBC spin. Take a look. Political activity audits of charities suspended by Liberals. And then look at the smaller text there. Panel report says charities should be free to engage in politics. Minister suspends infamous audit program. I love that. The audits were infamous. I'm sure every single tax cheat in history has said their audit was infamous. Whether Chrétien was running the government or Mulroney or Harper or Trudeau. In fact, Greenpeace was audited both under Chrétien and under Mulroney. Although both audits were done by the neutral civil service auditor, it wasn't political either time. It was Greenpeace that was political. And it actually had its charity status revoked twice. But look at this from the same story. National Revenue Minister Diane Leboutillier, quote, has asked the CRA to suspend all action in relation to the remaining audits and objections that were part of the Political Activities Audit Program initiated in 2012, a release Thursday said. And let me read one more. A spokesman for the minister, Chloe Luciani-Girouard, said Thursday's suspension affects 12 audits, of which 7 have resulted in an intention to revoke charitable status. Wouldn't that be nice? Having your liberal political friends interfere at the tax department and suspend your audits. You failed your audits. You broke the law, a law that's been on the books for many years. You're about to have your charity status revoked and lose your ability to give out receipts, but you've got Gerald Butts in high places, and he'll get right in there, Librano style. I wonder what other friends of the Liberals have infamous audits of their businesses canceled by the Prime Minister's office, and he's not even hiding, he's boasting that he's interfering with the audit. So 7 of these charities had broken the law so badly that they were in the process of having their charity status revoked for illegal conduct. But then Trudeau's minister, more accurately, Gerald Butts' minister, came in and told the auditors to leave. Go away, shoo. I'm sorry, that's a form of corruption, by the way. And so they're back at it. Registered CRA charities campaigning politically against pipelines. Just like Gerald Butts himself did when he ran one of the, quote, charities that lobbied against pipelines, the World Wildlife Fund. Oh, and by the way, each of the charities I've referred to above takes funding from foreign anti-oil lobby groups. So yeah, you got the worst of both worlds. You got the corruption of the Libranos interfering in tax audits. And you've got the environmental extremism of U.S. leftists. That's Justin Trudeau's Canada. Or more accurately, that's Gerald Butts' Canada. That's an excerpt from my daily TV show, The Ezra Levant Show. Normally it's behind a paywall, but I thought you'd like this video, so we put it on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to watch the daily show every day, including always 2 interviews a day, and I read my hate mail, just click on this screen and become a premium member.